Good evening.
Good evening.
Good
How are
evening.
you?
I'm excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this all day, all week. This is, you know, this is the highlight of my weeks when I get to be with y'all. Hope everybody's doing well.
Mm. And
Yes, sir.
I don't know why you can't see. I
Do you have that? Is there a little slider up where your camera is?
what
Sometimes a little
I'm
slider
here.
that covers the lens. Oh.
Uh-huh. Here I am.
There you are. I bought I bought a laptop one time and it had a piece of film that you couldn't see over it. I thought something was wrong with the camera. I fought that thing for 2 weeks and finally figured it out. Let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll look at our shell here. And so it is Thursday, September the 18th at 7 p.m. So we have Earthman Facilities chapters 4 through 6 due today with Paula. I see she hadn't joined us yet. Um, and then the next time that we will be together um, is a week from today. We'll have a Zoom session, and then after that, the following weekend, we will be back in Wayne at Dogwood. And so that's the upcoming schedule. Did anybody see anybody at in any of the buildings when we were there the last weekend? I never saw anybody. Um, I knew there wasn't any need to call on Saturday, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to call and see if they can check, make sure that the technology's working better than it was last time. But I knew the day of there wouldn't be anybody there other than security might be around. So, but that's a good one. All right. While we're waiting on Paula, um, I have a couple of items that I have put in our. This is an article that followed up the discussion that we had in our last class about what you do when kids don't pay for lunch. Um, and this talks about a new program that's in Union County, just on the eastern side of Charlotte, the next county over. Um, and they've got an alternative meal plan where they're giving them like a hobo lunch in a sack, I believe it is. Um, and so let's see what it says here. They get a sandwich, a fruit, and a milk. They just hand them a bag if they don't have their lunch money. But now this is what I want us to focus on here briefly. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. You can read the article. District leaders say the change comes after years of rapid unpaid meal debt topping $300,000 last school year. All right, so I'm going to say that again. Now they're saying that they had $300,000 in school lunch unpaid lunch debt last year. All right, that's where I want to start tonight. Let me stop my share. Do you believe that's true? That let's see what size district Union County is. They've got roughly 42,000 students. It's a big district. That's why I said it's become the bedroom community for Charlotte. Uh, Sixth largest district in the state now. Sixth largest in the state. So the question is could the sixth largest district in the state amass $300,000 in school lunch, unpaid lunches? Does that sound feasible to you?
How much did you say they had
300,000,
with 40,000 kids?
42,000, yeah.
I think it's feasible.
At $5 a kid, that's all it is.
I can tell you last year alone, I had $6,000 of lunch debt and just for 800 kids.
That's what I'm talking about. See, the feedback that I heard on that is, oh, that couldn't be that much. Oh, sure. No, that's probably several years together. And the article clearly says that's just for 1 year. But see, the general public doesn't understand the scope when you start magnifying it, multiplying it by hundreds or thousands of kids. They don't understand the scope of the problem that schools face. Now, just like Lauren's talking about, she had $6,000 worth at her school. How much? 6,000?
6,000 at the end of the year. And that was after I had collected quite a bit throughout the year. I used to
All
joke
right.
that I moonlight as a debt collector last
Yeah,
year.
exactly. Shylock,
Hmm.
debt collector. Um, and so my question is, in your district, do they make you come up with that 6,000 at your school? Most districts do.
Yeah, I have to
They
pay
act
for it out
like
of the
it's a
school
school
funds.
problem and not a societal and school district problem.
Hmm.
That's where I've been headed with this. We talked about one, two, and three code funds, and then five code funds, and then you have your local school money. And what they're saying is we don't have any funding source in any of those one, two, or three, or five codes to cover that. So that belongs to you.
I found a great 501(c) last year that's called Offer Lunch.
Mhm.
And you can partner with them and just put out a link, and parents can just make a monthly tax deductible donation, and it helps pay off lunch debt. And then every month the company would just send me, and all I had to do was share that link with my families every week. And I mean, it helped a lot. I got quite a bit of money, and especially in a district like Union County where there's quite a bit of wealth, you might find
Yeah,
families who are willing to help out.
yeah, yeah. Well, one of the things that you know we do here in Charlotte Mecklenburg is we have Harris Teeter Supermarket, which is an upper end supermarket, and they have a Vic card, VIC card, loyalty card, and you can register with them, and a percentage of that goes to you. And schools get a good bit of money because it's really affluent here, and Harris Teeter is really expensive. But that goes to lunch debt in the more affluent areas. The problem is there is no Harris Teeter in the hood, on the bad side of town, in the low wealth. We have those what they call food deserts, where there aren't any supermarkets. And see, that's the best one that I know of, that sends you money every month. That you could do that, and it's food associated, and people get behind it, and they have the big checks, and it's a lot of PR, woohoo, and all that. But what if you're poor little Oakdale, in the northern part of town, where they're at the grocery store anywhere near Oakdale? What if you're over at Oakdale? What do you do there? So I guess what I'm advocating for is that when you get into a position of authority in your school district above the school level, that would be one of the things that I would be that's really putting a burden on the local money that schools have, or their ability to do that. And even if you're not willing to pay it, but if you could find ways, to create these partnerships where it's not just in the affluent schools that there's help nearby, that there's help in some of these other places. Um, that to do that. But that is a big drain on your local school money. And that's something that you need to be aware of. And thankfully, we have Lauren. Not thankfully she's having the problem, but she's there to, for us to get an idea. It can kill your local budget at your school where you don't have any money to do anything with, just trying to feed kids. Doesn't seem like that's an equitable thing for individual schools, but unfortunately, I don't know any district that pays that. Everywhere I've ever worked or known about, pretty much, I know pretty much every district makes the school bear that burden. Not a good situation. Did any of you get to watch Carter's proposal defense yesterday? No. All right.
I
So y'all don't seem too
started
interested in
it,
dissertation.
but I didn't.
Loretta and I met this week. We talked about hers. So let me share my screen. So what I have done, uh, this is your homework assignment that we're going to talk about this. Let's see. Let me get back to my. All right. Your homework assignment, it's only 30 minutes long, is to watch this proposal defense. If you've not seen one, you need to start getting it in your mind. This is 740, folks. You need to be proposing next semester at the latest. You need to be getting it in your mind what you're going to do. Now, so it's the whole video is like 45, but his presentation is just 30 minutes long because I'll cut you off at 30 minutes if you're mine. That's the way it works. You get 20 slides, you get 30 minutes. So I would like for you to watch that so that we can have a discussion. I want you to pay most particular attention to how he links everything to the literature, everything. So that's your homework assignment, is be able to speak to this video. It's only 30 minutes long. And it's the most relevant thing that I'm going to do with you this semester in terms of dissertation. You need to watch this. Now, I want to show you his chapter 2. All right. Everybody got a pencil and paper? Everybody's got a pencil and paper. All right, pop quiz. Read the title of his dissertation, and I want you to write down 5 things. All right? First thing I want you to write down, what is the problem? What is his lens on the problem? And the 3 other major sections that his title has 5 sections. It has the 5 sections of his literature review. Now, obviously, number 6 is your conceptual framework, and number 7 is your gaps in literature. But content-wise, the 5 major sections of his dissertation are represented in his title. What major section should we see in his literature review? And most specifically, I want to know what the problem is, what is the problem, and what is his lens? How is he viewing this problem? What is his lens? All right? I'm going to give you 1 minute. All right. All right. Who's going to volunteer? What's the problem? In this dissertation, what is the problem? What problem are we trying to solve?
Was it dropouts?
There you go.
That's the problem, dropouts.
Yeah. Problem is dropouts.
Through the lens of teachers,
Well,
teacher
yep, we're
perceptions.
looking through the lens of teachers, but we're looking at our lens on this problem is interventions.
Okay.
Your lens is what are we going to look at to see if it's working to fix our problem, or if could it work to fix our. You're viewing something. You're going to study something. That your lens, your focus is going to be on something and its relationship to your problem. That's your lens. See, everybody gets it wrong. They think the problem is intervention strategies. No, the problem is dropouts. We're going to look at dropouts through the lens of intervention strategies. So I should see dropouts. Shouldn't that be the first thing I see in the literature review is dropouts? Then I need to see intervention strategies. What about teacher perception? Should I see that? Yeah. What about college and career ready? If you're not going to be if you're dropping out, the problem is you can't be college and career ready. North and South Carolina both. That's all you hear if you're a high school person. God, they beat that drum just like a kid, drive you crazy. College and career ready, college and career ready. Well, if you drop out, you can't be college and career ready. So I better see something about that, teacher perceptions, and something about intervention programs. So the first one I better see the problem. I better see something about dropouts. And then I need to see college and career ready. Then I need to see something about intervention. I need to see teacher perception. I need to see rural areas. We define rural areas specifically. I better see something about rural areas. And then I need to see gaps in literature. And then I need to see your conceptual framework. So let's see what he did. Now, I want you to watch how the funnel comes down, how he drills down. Oh, that's the thing I want you to watch. This isn't just random stuff. All right. Chapter 2. Overview. The national and state context of dropout and graduation rates. Is that not the problem? Is that not what we want to see first? But now, he started the funnel out wide. Where did he start looking at dropouts? Nationwide. National trends. All right. What should I see next? If we're drilling down, I should see
The state.
Maybe I will see the state next. Graduation trends in South Carolina. Then I need to see it on down to rural communities. What's bad about dropping out? Dropout impacts and risks, barriers in rural communities, socioeconomic. See how we keep on drilling down? We're going to wear dropouts out. But that's what a literature review is. We exhaust the literature on this problem. It leads to mental health and substance abuse, all this stuff. Now, because didn't we say why dropouts are bad? College and career ready. They can't be college and career ready. What issue in schools is this problem causing? Well, college and career ready, assessment barriers. Here we go. There we go. All this stuff about college and career, culturally responsive interventions, profile of the South Carolina graduate, all this stuff that this is what we're supposed to see. This is what we're not going to be able to do if they drop out of school. Okay. Obligations of law to create, and it tells you this is your legal obligation to do this. Bridges to employment and outlier schools, intervention. All right. We've fully exhausted our problem. Now we go to where our lens, the thing that we're looking at to address this problem. Well, look at here, intervention strategies in secondary schools. Overview of tiered intervention models. Is that the only model there is? No, we keep rolling on down. Wait a minute. There's academic recovery credit models as well. Let's exhaust all the literature on them. There's attendance recovery and extended learning time models. But what's the problem with these? Well, let's talk about that. Implementation fidelity is a problem. Challenges to implementation fidelity. The role of student engagement in academic success. Didn't we talk about intervention? We're trying to engage kids. All right, now we're going to go to engagement. That was in the title. There it is. That's the next thing. Our problem was dropouts. Our lens was intervention, and now we're talking about the secondary aspect of intervention is engagement. It was right there in the title. We were looking at intervention and engagement. So here's engagement. Factors influencing engagement in rural schools. Remember, I need to see it in a rural context. I don't need you to give me a bunch of literature about what they do in urban areas where you can ride the city bus. Family community engagement, dropout, engagement as a predictor of academic persistence and graduation. Measuring student engagement, teacher perceptions of interventions. Wasn't that the next thing that was in that title was teacher perception? Well, look at here. Here's teacher perceptions. Important of teacher buy-in. Perceptions, program relevance, and usability. Observe student engagement and academic progress. The role of professional development. Administer gaps in teacher expectations and program outcomes. Challenges and barriers to intervention success. We have to be balanced in our critique. And so we have to talk about the bad parts as well. Structural barriers in rural schools. Inadequate professional development. Lack of student motivation and engagement, misalignment between the intervention context and student needs, data monitoring and and accountability gaps. And then that leads us into our conceptual framework. Our two theorists, Aston and Bandura, or Renzulli and Bandura. It's actually Aston and Bandura. Renzulli is just an extension of Aston. And how they work together, and then summary of the literature and identified gaps. Here are the gaps, key findings from the literature. There's not a lot of literature on these specific ones right here that they're using. Identified gaps in the literature, lack of teacher voice and intervention evaluation, limited focus on rural schools, not a lot of literature, absence of integrated theoretical analysis, minimal attention to program delivery. All right, and then I run the thematic analysis. And again, if you didn't just throw together random topics, I don't put my thumb on the scale. I tell it I do an inductive coding thematic analysis that finds whatever things are there and the number that are there. And so if you do it the right way, he found 5, just like you're supposed to. And then you write your summary and you go on about your business to chapter 3. This is not hard. The funnel comes in. You've seen me do my hands that way 1,000 times. I did it every time we got together at 7:34. The funnel's got to come in. We're not trying to study. We're very specific in what we study. We start with the problem, then what our lens is, and then our context, rural schools, teacher perceptions. But now, why that's important is when you watch him, he's not the most polished student I ever had. He's good, but he's not the most polished. He's not Casey Cook. Casey's in the State Department. She's in the Department of Ed in South Carolina. And she's, she's slick. I mean, she's worked at, Department of Education for a long time. Presentations are, that's what she does for a living. But his content's as good as hers. He's not as slick and polished because he chases kids in the high school for a living. He don't go from one meeting to the next in the Department of Education in Columbia, South Carolina, where all she does all day, every day is presentations. But his content is as good as hers. You need to see his presentation, how he can link all of his literature back. And again, he's not slick, he's not polished. He's just but he knows it. He knows his topic, and he knows it. That's one takeaway I hope you get is he knows what his literature said. He knows his topic. He knows what his literature said. He put the time in, and he was cognitive. He wasn't just writing random annotated bibliographies with his brain turned off. He was trying to learn something as he was going. But he knows his topic. He knew it well. So that's that. I wanted to share that with you. And again, before we meet, the second weekend in October, as it is, make sure that you have looked at that video. So that you might have questions for me. You might have questions for me. So I am going to also, while I'm thinking of it, file save as, file save as. I don't think that this was his final draft, but I think chapter 2 is pretty much final in it. If it wasn't final, it was very close. I'm just going to put chapter 2. You're to read chapter 2, or just look at how it's formatted. It's the main thing. You don't have to read it. There you go. This is a good one. It happened just yesterday. It's not a million years old. Uh, this was one he finished this summer. He finished his coursework one semester before y'all, and you see it's the 18th, and he's already defended. So it's also, this can be done. This is not rocket science. This can be done. It's hard, but you can do it. All right. And so let's look at back to our weekly schedule again. As I said, we will be in Wayne the first weekend in October. Saturday, October the 4th, and Sunday, October the 5th. All right. And tonight's presentation is from Paula on Earthman chapters 4 through 6. But before we get to that, we have one more piece of housekeeping. Did we say that we were going to try to go to lunch on that Saturday next time we get together? Have any of y'all ever gone to that little farmer's market out the backside of the college there on the Saturday?
No, I thought we were going in November. Is that not right?
Is that what we're going to do? All right, we'll talk about it later then. I thought I had a couple of votes for October, but I think the majority, you're right, Paula, wanted to go in November. So we'll talk about that then. We'll do that then. But yeah, that little farmer's market out the back, they got different stuff over there. I'll have to go over and check that out when I'm back. When we get back, they close by the time we get done. All right, Paula, you're on tonight. I've taken half an hour. My time is up.
Okay.
Turn my camera.
Okay. Y'all see that?
Not yet. Now it came on. I have to turn my camera off sometime
Okay.
before we come on. We're good to go.
Okay. All right, I'm working off of two screens here of my other computer, so bear with me. All right, so planning educational facilities, chapters 4 through 6. Chapter 4 is long-range planning educational program development. Chapter 5 is long-range planning student enrollment projections, and Chapter 6 is evaluation of existing facilities. Okay. Chapter 4, the key points, program facility needs, the educational program, what students will do, how teachers will teach, and what special programs you will have, drives the facilities, and what you need. For instance, we are currently building a new K-8 school in our district, and with the population being what it is in that side of the district, the school has to be large, and it is large to serve the needs. Anticipate change. Educational programs are not static. Changes will happen. Legislation, requirements, inclusion, special education, student population shifts, and future adjustments. So you need to take all those things into account when you are building and getting new facilities. Stakeholder involvement is critical. Stakeholder involvement is huge. You have so many stakeholders that are involved, and you must take them into account. One good example is the naming of our new school. Our one of our board members decided the school needed to be named after a gentleman from the area. So immediately at a board meeting, that's what happened. His influence, I guess, was so powerful that all the other names were thrown out and it became named J.H. Lee after a gentleman from the Hampstead area, which is just a large or a good example of stakeholder involvement and how it's critical. And on that board meeting that night, we had about 10 people show up to advocate for naming the school J.H. Lee, which were all his family members. Educational specifications. One of the
Did
central
anybody
tools.
else's family get to come? Did they know it was not y'all were going to do that, or were they invited, or just his?
So what happened was they already had names picked for the school, and the um, stakeholders had already voted, and the vote was in. And then on that night when they were going to announce it, then this board member said, "Oh, no, no, no. It needs to be named J.H. Lee." And it was
So
named J.H.
J.H.
Lee
Lee
that night.
obviously didn't win the vote,
No, he did win the vote. That's what the name of the school is now.
but he won the vote, and
Oh, no, he didn't win the vote because he wasn't a part of the vote.
that's what I mean. So he didn't
Yeah,
win the vote.
no.
All right, and
So people
so
were a little
but
upset
the
about
board
that.
members already knew that and already knew the outcome of the vote and had this planned and got the family to come and did all of that. So how you do some things is how you do all things. Do you think that there's
Mhm.
such a thing as a seal bid or in that district that people don't know what the bids are and that they're sealed and they're not telling people that might contribute or might get some work what the lowest bid is? Do you think that might happen in a district that is that does something like this? See but see, these are civilians. These are lay people who are in charge, but the decisions that they make impact all the rest of us. They make us look like we're unethical and dirty because they're unethical and dirty. Makes it difficult. Proceed.
Um, Align program and facility with the district's mission, goals, and resources. Planning must consider what the district values. Every district has values. It could be technology, it could be arts, it could be STEAM, it could be CTE, and what financial resources are available to make those interests come alive in the new facilities. So the budget, the site, and the maintenance, and how to prioritize what's essential versus things that are just nice to have in a new facility. Flexibility and future proofing. Spaces would be designed to support changing uses, such as having movable furniture, desks that are on wheels, multi-use rooms, infrastructure to support changing technology, and possible future expansion. I know a few, maybe 10, 12 years ago, we started seeing a lot of elementary schools being built with multi-purpose rooms. So the gym was like connected to the cafeteria, and there was just a wall, and you could move the wall. There's quite a few of those in New Hanover County. So to me, that was odd. I had never seen it in Pender County, but New Hanover started to build new elementary schools in that manner. Assessing present resources versus new needs. A part of this emphasizes evaluating what you have. What are your current facilities lacking relative to the program you want? So oftentimes you'll build new facilities when you have a school that is older, that is lacking, and doesn't have the facilities that it needs to get things done for the students and the staff, but then they build new facilities with all the bells and whistles. Chapter 5, starting with importance of resource inventory and data gathering. Before making decisions, you need to gather reliable data about existing facilities, the age, the condition, the capacity, a lot like the assignment that we did that we got from the maintenance department, which tells us how old buildings are, like the building I was in last year that was built in 1917, I believe it was. Collect demographic information, student enrollment trends, past, present projections. The middle school I was at last year, we did not have a football field or a soccer field on site. So our students always had to travel for games because we just didn't have the facilities. So we'd always have to go to other schools. Procedures and benchmarking. Study how other districts or schools have addressed similar facility changes. So making sure you do your research and see how surrounding districts have handled similar situations. Facility data from other areas help in cost estimates, planning, timeliness, and decision making. Cost and financial considerations. I know Dr. Lamb has talked a lot about those school bonds and how they work. So we definitely want to take that into consideration in growth and new construction. So building that new school in Hampstead currently, when that school opens, it will already be overpopulated. So I'm a little lost on the reason, but that's out of my price range, I guess, or my job description. Life cycles of building systems anticipate long-term costs in operation and maintenance. We currently have 19 schools, so with this new building, we'll have basically 21 schools, and our maintenance department is about 10 men for all these schools, so nowhere near enough. Facilities information systems. Having accurate, up-to-date facilities and information systems is very important, especially in these new buildings. The ability to model what if scenarios, what if enrollment grows, what if programming changes, what if technology needs increase. Tools like the CAD facility and tools condition assessment reports are valuable. Interrelationship of program resources and facilities. A facility plan must align with needs and what resources are actually available. Stakeholder engagement and communication. We've already talked about stakeholders and how important their influence is. Involving stakeholders early with clear data bills, understanding of trade-offs. Communication helps get buy-in for funding. You always want to have a good relationship with your county commissioners, so maybe you can get more money. Regulatory, safety, and code considerations. Facilities must meet codes, building fire codes, safety codes, ADA environment, health and safety considerations, indoors, daylighting, air quality, and lighting in the building. Prioritization, because resources are almost always limited, planning must include prioritizing which facility issues to address, which does seem to be an issue in my district sometimes. Chapter 6, purpose of facility evaluation. Understand how well current buildings support the educational program. identify deficiencies. A lot of our older buildings do have some deficiencies, and they're not meeting the needs of our students, especially with our growing EC population, such as wheelchair ramps, getting students in wheelchairs on the stage and things like that were not taken into consideration when the buildings were built 60, 70 years ago. Determine whether to renovate, repair, or replace facilities. Evaluation. Evaluation is going back, looking at your facilities, what they may need, how to upgrade, how to keep these facilities up to use, and that we can continue to use them, even if they have some areas that need improvement. User input, that's essential. Teachers, students, maintenance, and custodial staff often see problems or deficiencies that others might miss. Sometimes being in the building every day, you miss things. So it's good to have fresh eyes come in and look at your building. Safety, health, and compliance standards. We have buildings in our district that have mold, but they tell you don't say that word. And they come in and change air ducts and do all those things. But that is a part of safety and health. Prioritization and decision making. Use evaluation data to set priorities, decide what to order, what to defer versus what needs immediate attention, especially if it refers back to safety, that's immediate attention. Cost benefit analysis helps set what to do now versus later. And ongoing evaluation. We should always constantly be evaluating our buildings that we're in every day, and taking stock on what we have and what we need to keep our students safe and keep our buildings in working order. Chapters 4 through 6 of planning educational facilities stress. Oh, sorry, I lost my screen. Can y'all still see that? Yeah. What did I do? Sorry. Stress the effective school planning requires community input, clear educational specifications to guide design, and careful evaluation of existing buildings to decide on renovation or replacement, all ensuring facilities support educational goals. And from what I can see in my district so far, typically things require renovation. We do not get a lot of replacement. And that's it.
All right. I want to pick up on a number of things thank you, Paula. That's very good. I want to pick
Yes,
up on
sir.
a number of things that Paula just said, and maybe y'all can help me out to understand why. Paula concluded with, we only get a lot of renovations, we don't get a lot of new buildings. All right. Why do you think that is? Think about the governance piece. Think about the governance piece. The answer to this question is in the governance piece. It's not in carpenters and electricians or plumbers or architects or any of that. The answer to this question is in the governance piece.
Because the county commissioners are over the buildings. And so in order to get new buildings, there generally has to be a bond on
There you
the ballot to provide funding for new things.
That is correct.
As opposed to if it's just renovation, that's under school board budget and they can approve those. But otherwise there has to be a bond.
There you go. It's the governance piece, and Lauren just explained it quicker and better than I could. The reason why you don't get new buildings is because the county commissioners have to petition the state to have a local referendum, a vote to let a bond. New construction requires a bond. Renovation of existing facilities do not. It's the governance piece. And what don't the county commissioners want to do? Because when you petition the state to get a bond referendum on the ballot, what do you have to tell the state and make public to the potential voters of that bond? How are you going to pay for it? A bond is a loan, and you have to make payments. The county has to make payments to the state. If the voters in Pender County were to let a bond and approve a bond, the county commissioners have to pay, they're borrowing that money from the state, and they have to pay it back. What do they have to tell the citizens of the county on the bond referendum? And they have to tell the state. They have to tell them what their plan is to pay that loan back. A bond is not free. It's not a grant. It's not free money. It's a loan. What do they have to tell them? What are the two things that they have to tell them? One or the other or both? That we're going to raise property taxes, or we're going to raise sales taxes or usury taxes like hotel, vacation, recreation. We're either going to do that, which would include sales tax, or we're going to raise property taxes to generate enough revenue to pay you back. So, in the governance piece, how fast are county commissioners to go running out and tell everybody they want to raise their taxes, especially in this era? It's not about, see, the thing that you got to understand about facilities, it's not about the condition or your facilities or where they're located or capacity or any of that stuff. It's the political, it's the governance piece. And that has a lot to do also with where these things show up. And even though you say, why in the world they build a school there? It has to do with that governance piece. While on the professional side, we have to do everything that Paula talked about, assess our facilities, the age, conditions, make all those recommendations. But that's the internal stuff. That's for maintenance and renovation. We don't have a seat at the table. Now they will ask us for that priority list at bond time of your biggest needs that you have. But as we talked about before, that is non-binding, and it's a bait and switch, because the district will take that and look at it, and they'll move some stuff around so that it looks like that this group's going to get this, and this, and then, but that paper, that's not even worth the paper it's written on. So don't you as a school administrator get out there and start shilling for them about, oh, we're going to get this in our community. We're going to get this and that and the other if we do this. And then when it doesn't show up, that would be you. Because you have nobody at the school level has any input on what the actual projects are going to be. Got to be very careful. You want to support your district. You want to do the right thing. I'm not an anarchist. I'm not telling you to burn the place down. But you got to be careful to protect yourself in this, because people have memories on this stuff. And while they'll continue to vote for their person that didn't deliver because their tribe, their party, they'll ask for your head on a stick. You got to remember that. So new facilities require bond, old ones don't. New facilities require state and county commissioner involvement. Renovation does not. And so that's part of it. And again, you need to do your facilities assessment. You need to make sure that those things are being done so that you can put your resources where you need them. And it also kind of protects you from yourself. Now, let me explain that. When budgets start running short, where's the first place we start robbing from ourselves? In the capital budget, especially the replacement, renovation, and um, oh, 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 oh. What word am I looking for here? Depreciation. Your depreciation allotment in there. And so those are budgets within capital, and we just start taking that money. Now, what is a depreciation budget? Somebody explain that one to me. What we do is we start saving money because we know we're going to have to replace roofs every how often. every 15 years. They depreciate. You have depreciating assets, and you have to plan in your budget for those depreciating assets. You know that you're not going to have enough money, to do these things all at one time unless you do what? Save money a little bit in every budget. You put it in your depreciation item. Roofs, things that just normally have to be replaced over the normal course of things. But see, that's down the road. That may be somebody under somebody else's watch that we have to replace all the roofs at one time because they're all the same age. And so where do we start? We start pulling money out of capital, out of our depreciation budget, which is like a savings account for a rainy day. Well, the rainy days now, if we're budget shortfall. Let me say that again. Those depreciation budgets are rainy day accounts for when and we use that terminology because usually it's to replace roofs. And that's why the metaphor there, it's all cute and all that, is your rainy day fund. But what you got to understand is if you can't make your payroll this month it's raining. We can't worry about the roofs in 5 years if we can't make payroll this month. And so it becomes, the local payroll. So we move that local money. We start robbing. The first thing that goes is our depreciation, and then maintenance, and then replacement, then maintenance, excuse me. So it goes depreciation, replacement budget. What's a replacement budget? Stuff that's going to have to, lawnmowers, trucks over at the bus garage, maintenance vans. Those are going to have to be replaced. That one goes. Renovation budget goes. Capital starts to shrink because we have to pay the bills. And so what suffers in our districts the most are our buildings. So if you look at a place that's been in financial decline for a while, you will notice that their buildings are where you see it first. You don't have to tell me what their balance sheet is. Just let me walk around their campus, and I can tell you what their balance sheet is. The grass is uncut. There's weeds in the mulch beds. The trim on the buildings, even if they're brick, needs to be painted. Roofs are sketchy at best. Those are the kinds of things that we rob to pay payroll. So Queen's University in Charlotte got swallowed up by Elon yesterday. Back in the spring, Limestone just out and out closed. Limestone was college in Gaffney, South Carolina, about 15 miles just across the state line from us. I actually went to Gaffney today. I came home that way. 150 runs down out of the campus down to Gaffney. I catch 85 and come home to home. I'm at the big house at the lake tonight. And so they thought that they might could sell it to the county to use in the school in the K-12 Cherokee County. And so what did Cherokee County do? They sent their facilities people over there. And about a month later, they had a news conference. And they don't normally say this stuff, but somebody must have made them mad. So they had a news conference. And they announced that they were not interested in purchasing the Limestone College campus, which is in the heart of Gaffney, historic. But they went on to say that there was $100 million worth of deferred maintenance needs that needed to be done right now. 100 million. They had been struggling for about 10 years. And so what had they been doing every year? They had been robbing their capital budget and to the point where their buildings were basically uninhabitable. And that's their term, not mine. Many of the buildings were uninhabitable for school children, school-age children, mold, water leaks, those kinds of things. And so the issue is a lot of districts, back to the Leandro case, a lot of districts are not able to put any additional money into educating a child because of the cost of keeping up their facilities. And that's what it boils down to. Now, today the announcement came out from Winston-Salem, and of course, Stephen emailed me a few minutes ago. You saw that. But he started at Oakdale today. He had in Charlotte. He was the AP that got cut in Winston. He came to Charlotte, got a job at Oakdale. But they were paying 46 local assistant principals, and they've cut all of them out of the budget. They only get the state allotment now. But that's what this has all been about in Winston. They intentionally ran them off a cliff because they don't want the local putting any money and doesn't want to put any local money into the education of a child. Local money can be spent buying teachers, assistant principals, anywhere. Anything that you have beyond your capital obligation, you can spend on educating a child and the personnel that it would take to do that. And so the whole idea in Winston was to drive them off a financial cliff, cut all the local money out of their budget, and drive people to charters and privates. So let's see if it worked. Let me share my screen. Now, I should have pinned this a while ago. I didn't because I was on my phone and I couldn't. But let me see if I can pull it up. Uh, you saw the headline there, didn't you? It's trying to make me subscribe to their paper. I don't really want to. Triple what they anticipated, and they were already anticipating a record decline. Our district and the Board of Education, incompetence, blaming the district and the Board of Ed. So it worked. Now, because declining enrollment, you don't have to have as much local money to pay for schools and declining enrollment. But also, what else declines with declining enrollment? Not just local money. How are schools funded? From the state and the feds? Head count, ADM, one showing up. Becomes it becomes a cascading effect. And the quality and the services will go down. And this will drive the traffic. This is what we do. Um, this is how it works. And so this is kind of the benediction here on this one tonight. We'll wrap up. You need to manage your budget, and you don't when you're just getting money and spending it, and nobody's holding you accountable for it. There's going to be a day of accountability. What went on in Winston-Salem is they just kept on spending, and they just told them to keep on spending. Nobody ever said your budget's not balanced, you spent too much, you're over, and they just kept on and on and on, and money kept flowing until it didn't. I mean, this was completely intentional on a political level. This was completely intentional. I told you this is the litmus case to basically dismantle public schools. We're taking on one of the biggest in the state. In what might be considered the most racist town in the state, we're trying it and see what and it's working. It's absolutely working. It's absolutely working. Our takeaway is know what your local budget can and can't do and where you get it, know what your school money, understand that facilities are very political and that especially if it's about building them something new, there's a lot more levels of governance involved in that than just maintenance, depreciation budget, replacement budgets. Those all get sacked first when things get tight elsewhere in the budget. Um, just know that's how the world works. I just need for you to know how. I'm not telling you I have a solution. I'm not telling you that, oh, poor pitiful me. You just need to be aware. Some of you will be really good at playing the game, but you got to know what the game is. You got to know how it works. I'm not going to sit and do spreadsheets with you. You can learn how to do accounting and how to run an Excel spreadsheet, but you need to know how all this stuff ties together. And it's not just about accounting the dollars and cents. It's knowing all the ins and outs of this stuff and how it all fits together. So I will see y'all on October the 4th. And we're going to do our lunch in November. We're going to meet again next week for our next presentation. You're going to your homework assignment for, again, you got half a month, 3 weeks, is to watch that 30-minute video. That's all you got to do. And then, and you're going to see that he's not a polished presenter, but he did a great job, and that's what was important. All right, what time is it? Oh, my time is up. Y'all got anything else? All right, love you, mean it. I'll see you next week. Everybody have a good week. Bye bye. Oh, great job tonight, Paula. Make sure you tell her I said so.